GIAA.TV now brings you more live coverage of more sports than ever before. Announcing GIAA.TV Lite with live coverage of swim, wrestling, cheer, and more. GIAA.TV Lite is the next best thing to being there. From one screen, you will hear the crowd, see the action, the scores, the stats, and more. With no play-by-play or instant replays, GIAA.TV Lite is half the price of our regular broadcast. Announcing GIAA.TV Plus. With all of your fan favorites, GIAA.TV Plus now adds volleyball, softball, all-star football, and more. Featuring all the play-by-play, instant replays, multiple angles, and more, all for less than the cost of 2 adult tickets to the event. Don't miss 1 second of the action all year long, only on GIAA.TV.
What's up, everyone? Welcome, man. It's another week of the GIAA Scoreboard Show. Tommy's stopped going by so fast. It's week 7 here,
man.
And we are presented by the Beck Center every Friday night, bringing you all the action that's happening. Can you believe it, Richard? We are 1 month away from the playoffs. It makes me sick.
Playoffs.
It makes me sad. But with that being said, listen, that means it's pretender or contender month coming up in the month of October. Cannot wait for that. But it's another week in the books here in the GIAA.
It's time for these teams to just lay it all out on the field. We have had some fantastic finishes. How about that Sherwood, Georgia Christian finish? Man, it went down to the wire. I mean, we've had some top teams in the GIAA, and we've had some prove-it games for some GIAA teams. And, that school over there in Milledgeville, they keep winning. They keep winning.
Uh-oh, and now the game of the week. I cannot wait to talk about that.
Oh,
but
my.
first, we're presented by the Beck Center. Thank you to Roger Beck and the Beck Center for all what they do. Shout out to Clint Morgan, Stan Whitlock, Robert Slocum, and the rest of the crew in the GIAA. Of course, Commissioner Tommy Marshall. We appreciate all of them and their support and allowing us to be your voices and giving you the ultimate coverage of what's happening around in this league. And I don't care, and I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. The level of competition, the level of athletes, the level of coaching, it's bar none, I think, the best in Georgia. And I think it's slept on, and that is why we love doing this show. We love promoting these athletes. You know who else loves promoting these athletes? Mallory and Evans.
Yes.
And I can't wait now for our Mallory and Evans Team of the Week, which is Richard.
All right, we're going to have Drew Butler make that announcement.
Let's hear it.
Hey, everyone. Drew Butler back here again, Vice President of Business Development at Mallory and Evans. Here to present the Mallory and Evans GIAA Team of the Week. That's right. It is the final weekend of September. Fall temperatures need to get here, but we are most certainly in the thick of fall. Guess who last week's Mallory and Evans GIAA Team of the Week was? We're showing some love to 8-man football. Congratulations to Sherwood Christian. You dismantled David Emmanuel Academy 63-6. That is an incredible performance. You remain undefeated this season. Congratulations once again, Sherwood Christian. You are the Mallory and Evans GIAA Team of the Week.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you again to Drew Butler and Mallory and Evans, man.
Yeah.
I love businesses
Absolutely.
that care about the kids, care about football specifically, and trying to help kids get to the next level. Their support of what we do and the coverage that we bring. We appreciate Mallory and Evans, and specifically Drew Butler. And by the way, that former dog has got team's got a huge one tomorrow in Alabama.
Yes.
Georgia. Can't wait for
Absolutely.
that. But again, thank you to Drew Butler. We appreciate you, man. All right, Mallory and Evans Team of the Week. Obviously, you saw, which is Sherwood Christian. We know about them, Richard.
Yeah, 8-man football, defending 8-man football champions. Inspired by the movie Facing the Giants with Shiloh Christian, the fictional small Christian school, of facing the Giants, which was very unrealistic because you would never face a 7A school like they did. But it was basically Sherwood Christian, Sherwood Baptist Church over there, the Kendrick brothers, if you're familiar with the movies. Facing the Giants, fireproof, courageous. That Sherwood Christian, that whole community there is very tight-knit over there in Albany.
Well, they had a great game last week, a 63-6 win over David Emmanuel. They go to 5-0 in the season. Quarterback Trip Roberts, we remember seeing him in that state championship game. 17-26, 284 yards, 5 touchdowns. Quentin Murray had 7 catches, 125 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Buck LaGrange, 12 carries, 160 on the ground, 2 touchdowns, and then off for 76 yards, and had a receiving touchdown. On defense, lights out with Colton Mathis, Dylan Clark, and a big win to put Sherwood Christian at 5-0. By the way, they won tonight, 6-0. But how about Sherwood Christian with a big time win? They go to 6-0. They're your Mallory and Evans team of the week, and here's some highlights from it as well, Richard.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's one of the highlights where there's a Hail Mary pass, and it was just a great play. Sherwood Christian's last game, and we also have another highlight. Look at this play. He leaps and gets it with Jerome Jennings in 2016. Sorry, Georgia fans, but man, what a highlight! And then on the other highlight, a big stop by the Sherwood defense, and they got a great win tonight against Georgia Christian. It went down to the wire, 34-30. 17 seconds left to go. Georgia Christian had the lead, and Sherwood ended up taking the lead and went into a undefeated. Unbelievable, man.
Great job by Sherwood Christian. Our mountain. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll have more here on GIAA.TV.
This copyrighted broadcast, presented exclusively on GIAA.TV, is copyrighted by the Georgia Independent Athletic Association, a division of the Georgia Independent School Association, for the private use of our audience. It may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without the express written consent of the Georgia Independent School Association. GIAA.TV now brings you more live coverage of more sports than ever before. Announcing GIAA.TV Lite with live coverage of swim, wrestling, cheer, and more. GIAA.TV Lite is the next best thing to being there. From one screen, you will hear the crowd, see the action, the scores, the stats, and more. With no play-by-play or instant replays, GIAA.TV Lite is half the price of our regular broadcast. Announcing GIAA.TV Plus. With all of your fan favorites, GIAA.TV Plus now adds volleyball, softball, all-star football, and more. Featuring all the play-by-play, instant replays, multiple angles, and more, all for less than the cost of 2 adult tickets to the event. Don't miss 1 second of the action all year long, only on GIAA.TV.
Founded in 1985, the Georgia Independent School Association proudly represents nearly 170 accredited private, independent, and parochial schools across the state. From Tallulah Falls to St. Simon's Island, from Columbus to Augusta, our schools serve over 76,000 students every year. Whether parents are interested in smaller class sizes, more individual attention, a religious-based curriculum, or a safe and structured environment, the GISA provides a strong education, which is the foundation for success. To learn more about the GISA and how they can serve your school, visit us online at www.gisaschools.org.
Welcome back to the GIAA Scoreboard Show, presented by the Beck Center. Thrift Behringer, Richard Holdridge, your voices for the GIAA. Let's get started right now. First, the biggest game of the week, which was between number 1 Stratford in 4A against top 5 John Millage in 3A. And John Millage took Stratford to the woodshed, 51-13. They go to 6-1 on the season, and that is a big-time win. And, yes, we can say it, Joe Tessitore. John Millage is back, folks.
John Millage has got a message for all the teams in the GIAA.
I took that phrase from you.
I don't really care.
You do. You love Joe Tessitore.
I love Joe Tessitore, but John Millage has got a message for all the teams in the GIAA. We coming.
Thank you, Rich. Stratford, though, goes down to 5-1. But again, this is a non-classification loss, non-region loss. In the grand scheme of things, doesn't hurt the momentum that Stratford has. But big win for John Millage. They go again to 6-1, and they win the game of the week this week, 51-13. All right, let's talk about another team in 4A. That's Bullock Academy. They took down Tatnall Square, Richard, 52-13. Good win by Bullock Academy. They go to 5-1 on the season. Tatnall goes to 0-6, Richard.
The defending 4A state champions who bounced back after losing to John Millage last week, beating the Tatnall Square team that has lost a lot of seniors from last year's playoff team. Tatnall Square is having a tough season, but Bullock Academy is proving that they're one of the top teams in 4A. And I think when it's all said and done, Bullock is going to be right up there in the mix with Stratford, with Brookstone, with FPD, with trying to think Bethlehem Christian, George Walton.
Yep.
You know, they have some fantastic seasons so far. 4A is going to be insane when they come out with the brackets.
Absolutely insane for sure, man. And I can't wait because starting next week, we're dropping the Inside the GIAA show, Richard, and we'll be having rankings for volleyball and softball. We'll be having rankings for football. That's coming back next Wednesday night. We cannot wait for it, Richard. It should be a ton of fun. But let's continue on, and let's talk about First Presbyterian Day. We'll say in 4A, they beat Mount DeSales 42-7. Big win for them, bouncing back after their loss last week to Westfield to go to 5-2 on the season. Good job by the FPD Vikings, a former Mallory and Evans team of the week.
Yeah, and what a great win to get a shutout win against Mount DeSales after losing in stunning fashion last week to Westfield. That was probably the shocking loss of last week. But FPD, they look in the rearview mirror. They don't even look, and they move forward, and that's what FPD does. Yeah. So yeah, and I made sure to get it right. So FPD, big win over Mount DeSales.
Yes, and that is correct, Richard. So big win from FPD. And then how about Strong Rock Christian? They've been one of the more improved teams in 4A, Richard. They get a big win over Pacelli. Pacelli goes to 2-4. Not the start I thought we
Not
would see
the start you
from
want.
the Vikings, but Strong Rock Christian, 42-21. They go to 5-2 on the season. Nice job and big win at home for Strong Rock. They get a region win and go 1-0 to start the year in the region.
Strong Rock has been one of the surprise teams in the GIAA, and they're in a tough region along with Brookstone and Calvary, and they play all these teams. They'll play Westfield School. So to start 1-0 in the region, that's good for the Patriots of Strong Rock, who is all of a sudden they're playing really good football at the right time.
Yeah, they are, Richard. Monsignor Donovan Catholic takes down Holy Spirit Prep 62-20. And they did that on the road, putting up a 62-piece. Nice job by Monsignor Donovan. I love saying their name, man.
Yeah, they are a 8-man football. I mean, they're a much smaller school. I mean, we've seen them in basketball play and win championships. But Holy Spirit Prep, they laid the wood out 62-0 or 62-20 against Holy Spirit Prep.
Southwest Georgia Academy, I think one of the top teams in 2A. Remember, they made it to the state championship last year. They took down Brookwood 40-3. They go to 4-2 on the season. Big win for Southwest Georgia Academy out of Damascus, Georgia. They were having fun there tonight.
Yeah, the battle of Southwest Georgia. Brookwood out of Thomasville and losing to Southwest Georgia Academy, which I think that Southwest Georgia Academy, after losing to Brookstone, they're getting back on track, and they're one of the top teams in 2A.
Kings Ridge, Richard, out of the GHSA, takes down Flint River, and Flint River's lost back-to-back games, Richard, for the first time in several years, man, and they lose this one 35-20. So big win for Kings Ridge out of the GHSA. Flint River 4-2 now on the season.
Yeah, that team from Woodbury that won the state championship a couple years ago, falling to a very talented Kings Ridge Christian Academy, which is in the private bracket in the GHSA. They're one of the top private schools in the GHSA, and just a tough loss for Flint River.
Let's talk about 8-man football. Citizens Christian blank St. Mary's 21-0, and they go to 5-2 on the season. Nice job by Citizens Christian getting that win and taking care of business against St. Mary's.
Yeah, Citizens Christian out of Douglas, able to get the shutout win, 21-0 I think that when it's all said and done, that the teams in 8-man football are going to be at the finish line. Citizens Christian is going to be one of those teams up there with Sherwood Christian, David Emmanuel, and Georgia Christian, also Westminster Schools of Augusta. I mean, so many loaded 8-man football teams.
Central Fellowship gets a 27-14 win over Trinity Christian. Central Fellowship upsets, major upset, Richard.
It's a big upset.
Trinity Christian comes in 5-1 on the season. Central Fellowship 2-4. Central Fellowship goes to 3-4 now, and Trinity Christian goes to 5-2. So big win for Central Fellowship over Trinity Christian.
Absolutely. That small 2A school down in South Macon, defeating Trinity Christian out of Dublin. And we're going to probably see these two teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, we probably will. Piedmont goes and beats Heritage 57-14. Tough start for Levi Dunn and the Heritage Hawks. They go 1-6. Piedmont Academy now 4-2 on the season.
Yeah, Piedmont Academy, another strong team in 2A for the classification. They've taken on Heritage that's having a tough season, but a big win for Piedmont.
Yeah, so there's Piedmont. How about Brentwood? I think the number one team in 2A. Brentwood takes down Briarwood in a battle of one loss. Brentwood 5-1 coming in to Briarwood 4-1, and Briarwood Academy gets smoked 50-20. Brentwood goes to 6-1, and they look every bit the team that can go back to back.
Yeah,
Adam Lord, another Mallory and Evans team of the week.
Of course, and we know Coach Lord. We saw him at the state championship last year
did.
in Statesboro. They look like a team that can go back to back. You remember last year when we were doing this GIAA show, this was the game of the week, Brentwood and Briarwood. Remember, I think they were supposed to play. I remember the schedule got shifted. It was actually 1 year ago that Hurricane Helene came in, and it really just moved this schedule around. There was a lot of teams that canceled games.
Right.
There were teams in the Augusta area that didn't play for an entire month.
That was a tough year.
I think it was one of these games. I'll have to look back. I thought that this was one of the games that actually they didn't play last year.
Yeah, I think that is a great point, Richard. So we are glad to see everything working out there. And then let's continue on to back to 3A, and a team that got a massive win last week over one of the top teams in 4A. Westfield goes on the road to Pinewood, and the Hornets get a 29-10 victory to go to 4-2 on the season. And Westfield's trying to keep up with teams like Deerfield Windsor, also Todd Village, Valwood, Tifteria. I mean, the 3A classification. I mean, I cannot wait
it's
to
a
play
gauntlet.
It is going to be incredible. But Westfield goes to 4-2.
Man, when you have like 8 top teams in 3A that can win a state championship, imagine what the second round and the semifinal games look like. Westfield School also battle-tested because they play in a tough region with 4A schools like Brookstone, Pacelli, Calvary, and Strong Rock, and they're all good. And Westfield School out of Perry knows something about winning. Their public school over there won a state championship. The football is really good down in Perry.
No, you're right about that, Richard. All right, are there any other scores that we have not gotten
Absolutely. What about this game against Brookstone Calvary? The battle for North Columbus.
Yeah, I left that for you because I was actually on the call for this game. Brookstone trying to bounce back after having their first loss of the season against a really good Stratford team last week, 41-14. Ian Headley's team comes in to an undefeated Calvary team and wins 25-12. They were up 25-6 in the first half. End up Calvary scoring a late touchdown with 8 seconds left to make it a little bit more respectable. But I was really impressed with Brookstone and their defense. Broughton Branch was great, and big win for the Cougars. They go to 6-1 on the year. And between them, Stratford, FPD, they're all in the mix to seeing who's the best team. And I think the only undefeated team right now in 4A is
that would be George Walton.
But we don't have a final score for them for this week. So, but right now, Brookstone, big win over Calvary.
I was impressed with both teams. Calvary held their own against a Brookstone team that dropped 50 on them last year. This is a much improved Calvary team. You got to give credit to the defense for holding Brookstone scoreless in that second half and, making the score a little bit closer. It was not a blowout. Brookstone is still a very talented team, and Calvary is going to be one of those teams that's going to be in the mix. They're going to make the playoffs. They do have a tough schedule in front of them. Brookstone, man, they just keep going at it. They get a well-deserved bye before they have that showdown with the other private school in Columbus that they got to face in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and by the way, Pacelli and Calvary play next week too. But Brookstone Cougars 6-1 on the season. Calvary goes to 5-1, and it was a lot of fun seeing them battle out here tonight. All right, what we're gonna do is take a break. When we come back from break, the rankings have come out. We'll talk about who were ranked where last week and see where they're going to be ranked this week. And by the way, we'll drop those new rankings on Wednesday. It's inside the GIAA every Wednesday night throughout the rest of football season. We'll talk about the upcoming softball state championships that are October the 17th. Start actually October the 16th. Will end October the 18th. And then how about volleyball? That is starting October 10th and 11th. Richard, we will be there for both of those. One, volleyball, that's in Shorter, Georgia. And then for softball, that's at South Commons. And next week, that comes up here in October. So we can't wait to have those. You can watch all the action on
Inside the or GIAA
.tv.
Wow.
Rich's brain was everywhere but this.
We have two separate shows, Inside the GIAA and the High School Football Scoreboard show.
No doubt.
And I'm looking at the screen, and that's the show we're on right now.
Yeah, we're on the inside. We are on the High School Scoreboard. But we're going to talk about all that and more in the Inside the GIAA that's coming up this Wednesday. That's why I wanted to promote it. And then talking about we have state championships coming up October the 10th and 11th for volleyball and the 16th through the 18th for softball. You can watch both those on GIAA.tv. That is where you get to watch all the action for an affordable price. Great commentary, obviously great camera work and an elite broadcast. GIAA TV, love to be a part of the team. We'll take a break. We'll be right back after this. It's High School Scoreboard Show on GIAA.tv.
GIAA.tv now brings you more live coverage of more sports than ever before. Announcing GIAA.tv Lite with live coverage of swim, wrestling, cheer, and more. GIAA.tv Lite is the next best thing to being there. From one screen, you will hear the crowd, see the action, the scores, the stats, and more. With no play-by-play or instant replays, GIAA.tv Lite is half the price of our regular broadcast. Announcing GIAA.tv Plus. With all of your fan favorites, GIAA.tv Plus now adds volleyball, softball, all-star football, and more. Featuring all the play-by-play, instant replays, multiple angles, and more, all for less than the cost of 2 adult tickets to the event. Don't miss 1 second of the action all year long, only on GIAA.tv. This copyrighted broadcast, presented exclusively on GIAA.tv, is copyrighted by the Georgia Independent Athletic Association, a division of the Georgia Independent School Association, for the private use of our audience. It may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without the express written consent of the Georgia Independent School Association.
So GIAAsports.org is the name of the website that has all the information that we have to find to give you up to date of what's going on around the league. So you can be just as smart as us by going to GIAAsports.org. And on there, they've already put out the rankings for softball. They've put out the rankings for volleyball. We'll talk about all those on Inside the GIAA Wednesday. Again, a separate show that we'll have Wednesday nights called Inside the GIAA. And then on Friday nights throughout football season, we got the High School Football Scoreboard Show both of them presented by the Beck Center. But we're going to do football here tonight because that's what the Scoreboard Show is. And I'm just going to run through these quickly. We don't have graphics for them. But, again, on GIAAsports.org, look at 1A, number 1 team, Edmund Burt. Number 2, Robert Toombs. 3, Flint River. 4, Thomas Jefferson. Not really surprised on any of those, Richard.
No, there's only 4 teams in 1A.
And I would assume the defending champion would be number 1. But right now, Edmund Burke 3-2 and Robert Toombs 2-3. All right, let's go to 2A. Guess who the number 1 team is, Richard, if you had to guess?
That would be Brentwood.
And Brentwood was 5-1. This, again, was last week's rankings. So all these are last week rankings. There are going to be new ones coming out this week. But I would assume with Brentwood's big win, they're going to say number 1 because they beat the number 5 team 50-20. Briarwood's 4-1. So coming in this week, Brentwood was number 1. Guess who was number 2? Southland. Number 3, Trinity Christian. Number 4, Southwest Georgia. 5, Briarwood. 6, Gatewood. 7, Fellowship. 8, Windsor. 9, Augusta Prep. And number 10, Dominion Christian. The only team that would not make the playoffs in 2A would be Heritage. So the number 1 team, Brentwood. Number 2, Southland, Richard, coming into this week.
Yeah, those are exactly where the rankings need to be. The defending champion, Brentwood, right there at number 1, which should, if the season ended today, they would get the number 1 seed. They would get the bye, and they would have the coast all the way to make it.
Now, in 3A, the number 1 team I thought would be Deerfield Windsor. No, it is actually John Millage, and I don't expect that to change because they just beat the number 1 team in 4A. I'll go ahead and give that away, which is Stratford. Yeah, they have the toughest strength of schedule out of anyone. And right now, if you ranked all the classification, John Millage would be number 1. Number 2 would be Stratford. Number 3, Brookstone. So John Millage comes in number 1. Undefeated Deerfield Windsor, number 2. Valwood, number 3. Westfield, number 4. Here's the problem. The strength of rating and the rating is in the negatives for the teams 5 through the rest of the 3A 11. But number 4, Westfield, number 3, Valwood, number 2, Deerfield Windsor, and number 1 team is John Millage. Shift areas, number 6, Frederica, number 5, Terrell Academy, number 7, Lakeview, 8, Brookwood, 9, and Piedmont, 10. But no shock, top 3, John Millage, Deerfield Windsor, Valwood. Heck, I'd even throw Westfield. I think all 4 of those teams are vying for a state championship.
Yeah, I am not surprised that John Millage is the number 1 team because look at the region they're in. They've got Stratford and FPD in their region. And not to mention, they're also in the region with Tatnall and Mount DeSale. So they're in a region with a bunch of 4A teams. But John Millage has been fantastic so far this season. I could see John Millage making it back to the state championship against Deerfield Windsor. I know last year it was Deerfield and Valwood, but I'm guessing it's going to be Deerfield and John Millage when it's all said and done.
All right, 4A. Number 1, Stratford. Number 2, Brookstone. Number 3, FPD. Number 4, Bullock. Number 5, the only undefeated team right now, as we know it,
strength of schedule,
and is George Walton. And George Walton, by the way, it played Loganville tonight, and Loganville Christian.
We'll try to get a score update
and see if we can get a score update before we get out of here. Loganville Christian is actually ranked number 10. So number 1, Stratford. Number 2, Brookstone. Again, coming into this week, number 3, FPD. Number 4, Bullock. 5, George Walton. 6, Pacelli. 7, Bethlehem Christian. 8, Strong Rock. 9, Calvary. And 10, Loganville. Those will be the teams in the playoffs. I expect a lot of shakeup, Richard, especially with Pacelli losing the number 8 team. I think that's going to be a swap. And I don't know if Stratford drops, considering they beat the number 2 and the number 6 team already on here, and their only losses to the number 1 team in the entire GIAA. And by the way, they also beat Pinewood earlier in the year. They beat Federica, the number 5 team in 3A. So Stratford will, I think they'll still continue staying number 1.
Yeah, I do think Pacelli's going to drop past 6 because, losing to a region opponent in Strong Rock, but they're 2 and 4, but they're up there because of their strength of schedule. Interested to see how Bullock plays out the season. Remember, their only loss was to John Millage, but they got a very convincing win over Tatnall. FPD has looked fantastic. I mean, they have just pulled away. I think, that game against FPD and Stratford, that's going to be just a box office. By the way, Bethlehem Christian defeated Athens Christian 17-11. That is a final that just came in.
And by the way, we have an unofficial score from Kevin Robbins saying Robert Toombs defeated St. Andrews 41-8. So Robert Toombs, who we just said is ranked number 2 in 1A, goes to 503-3. So good win.
There you go.
By Robert Toombs. So there's our scores. Again, you can go back and look at all the up-to-date information on GIAAsports.org. Also follow on Instagram. Follow on Facebook. That's where you get everything you need around the GIAA. And Richard, I can't wait to start Inside the GIAA next Wednesday. We'll be right back here next Friday night. As always, for week 8. Can you believe it? Week 8 of the high school football season. Any other final thoughts, Richard?
Yeah, I do want to say, I think the game of the week next week is going to be FPD and Stratford.
I'm glad you brought that up. So let's talk about that. I would assume it would be 2 because that's number 1 versus number 3. Looking at some of the other games.
Tift area and Valwood looks intriguing.
Yeah, Tift area and Valwood for sure, man. Westwood and David Emmanuel could be a potential game. Both those teams 5-2 Westwood. David Emmanuel is 4-2. You said Tifterary and Valwood would be a pretty good game to check out. George Walton on the road at Piedmont, undefeated George Walton. Could look out that. Could be for a potential upset. Richard Robert Tunes and Frederica, Calvary and Pacelli. But I think for sure next week, there is no doubt the game of the week is between the rivalry of all rivalries. That's FBD and Stratford. Sign me up for that. I can't wait to see how much fun that's going to be.
Yeah, and by the way, Border Wars, Bullock Academy takes on Hilton Head from South Carolina.
How about that?
I love seeing, like, I don't know anything about South Carolina teams, but I know that teams from like Savannah, Statesboro, Augusta, they'll play teams from South Carolina. So I'm sure that's got a big rivalry right there. But yeah, that's pretty cool that we got a high school from Hilton Head taking on Bullock Academy.
Well, thank y'all so much for watching. We've had a lot of fun with you here tonight. We'll see you next Wednesday for Inside the GIAA, and then of course next Friday, same time, same place. It's GIAA.tv.
This copyrighted broadcast, presented exclusively on GIAA.tv, is copyrighted by the Georgia Independent Athletic Association, a division of the Georgia Independent School Association, for the private use of our audience. It may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without the express written consent of the Georgia Independent School Association. GIAA.tv now brings you more live coverage of more sports than ever before. Announcing GIAA.tv Lite, with live coverage of swim, wrestling, cheer, and more. GIAA.tv Lite is the next best thing to being there. From one screen, you will hear the crowd, see the action, the scores, the stats, and more. With no play-by-play or instant replays, GIAA.tv Lite is half the price of our regular broadcast. Announcing GIAA.tv Plus. With all of your fan favorites, GIAA.tv Plus now adds volleyball, softball, all-star football, and more. Featuring all the play-by-play, instant replays, multiple angles, and more, all for less than the cost of 2 adult tickets to the event. Don't miss 1 second of the action all year long, only on GIAA.tv.